Hey guys, I wanted to show you today how I organise my knitting needles, and here is how. And I know that a lot of you are going to be looking at this and saying, that is not organised, Kat. But it is, and it is a system that I have been using for about 7 years now, and it works great. And I'm going to show you how I do it. I have a blog post about this that I wrote a couple of years ago, and I will link that below. Now, sometimes people look at me and think that I might be kind of fancy because I say dance and I can speak French, but that is not true. I'm kind of the opposite of fancy. I'm really cheap and I am not that organised naturally. I'm working on it. But this system works really well if you struggle with organisation, because if you're like me, that can be a bit tricky, and you will probably find this quite simple to keep track of. So basically, I keep all of my needles in here. I keep straight needles, double pointed needles, circular needles, and crochet hooks in here. The only thing that I don't keep in here are cable needles, and I keep those in a little pencil case in my knitting bag. And as you can see, my needles are quite varied. I don't have any of those pretty fancy sets because I am not a fancy person. Almost all of my needles are secondhand, and there are a few that I bought, but most of them came from my grandma, my brother's mother-in-law, and then a couple of people who have given me the needles of relatives who have died. So, oh, and I made these ones too. These, I have a video on how to make your own needles with a pencil sharpener and some dowel. And so they're very varied, and it is tricky to organise them, and I didn't want to do anything really meticulous about it because I find that I just don't work that way. I need a macro organisational system. So basically I have these 4 tubes. They are tissue boxes. As you can see, they say Kleenex down here, and I bought them back in 2013 when I was a starving student, and I basically saved up. I felt like $2 for a little box of tissues was heaps. So every time I went shopping, I would buy one and then use it up, and then buy another one and then use it up and save them, and until I had 4 of them. So the way it works, as you can see here, we've got 0, 0.25, 0.5 and 0.75. So any needle size that ends in 0, like 5mm, 6mm, 3mm, you get the idea, goes in here. Anyone whose size ends in 0.25, like so 2.25mm, 3.25, etc., goes in here. 0.5 and 0.75. And it is surprisingly easy to find the needles that you need doing it that way, instead of going by like smaller sizes, medium sizes, larger sizes. Because if you had a 2mm and a 2.25mm needle, just eyeballing them, it would be too hard to tell which one was which. But if I know that I'm looking for like 3.75, for example, I go to my 0.75. So I find one that looks like it is around that size to me, like 3 to 4mm. So like this one here. And yeah. So that's size 9, which is 3.75 in UK sizing. And I do that for, so straight needles, pretty easy to find the pairs of straight needles. You just, they stick out so you can find them. Some of them I think may be tied together with rubber bands. Double pointed needles I am more likely to tie together with rubber bands. Even then sometimes I don't. Like these ones, quite large, I think they're 5mm. They're easy enough to find the pairs for, and I actually kind of don't mind the hunt. Crochet hooks, easy, just stick them in there. If you're going to buy like cardboard tubes, make sure they're not taller than a crochet hook, because then they'll get lost in there. Circular needles, if they're longish, I sort of loop them around themselves, being careful not to damage the joiny bit, but you sort of twist them around and then loop them through the points, and they stay sort of contained that way, and then you can just undo them. And so by organising my needles this way, it's easy for me to find them. They don't take up much space, and it accommodates all of my mismatched needles, and it's worked really well for me. So I hope you enjoyed this video about how I organise knitting needles. Please share in the comments below how you organise yours. Thanks for watching. Bye.